Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Ready to pop the question? The jewelers at BlueNile.com have got sparkle down to a science with beautiful lab-grown diamonds worthy of your most brilliant moments. Their lab-grown diamonds are independently graded and guaranteed identical to natural diamonds, and they're ready to ship to your door. Go to BlueNile.com and use promo code LISTEN to get $50 off your purchase of $500 or more. That's code LISTEN at BlueNile.com for $50 off. BlueNile.com, code LISTEN.
Welcome, guys, to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones with me, your podcast host, Tony Evans. This is going to be a interesting episode for me because I've thought about doing this for some time now, and it's Cathedral, as you would have seen on the thumbnail when you clicked on it. Not Cathedral as in, you know, places of religious worship, but Cathedral as in... Oops, sorry, my stupid mic. Cathedral as in the band, the Doom band. But it's not even they're not even what we'd call a Doom band. It's actually, they're quite hard to tie down. But we'll talk about that later on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to all of my listeners recently. It's been really nice seeing the numbers coming in and people generally liking what I'm doing. I hope you enjoyed the interview with the Lord Weirdslaw Feg last week. I really, really enjoyed it. And the numbers seem to be the case, so the audience has enjoyed it as well. Now, if you are listening to this for the first time and you'd like to listen to the show without any ads in it, and you want to help out this poor, hard-working podcaster, then please do go over to Patreon and sign up for $3 a month. You get ad-free and you get videos. And in the future, you'll get for the 200th episode, you'll get both of them back to back, 200 and 201, the special episodes that are going to be out Christmas and New Year's Day. Sorry. So anyway, Cathedral. Right. So if I first saw Cathedral, one of their very first London gigs at the Tufnell Park Dome. I can't remember the exact year, 1990, 91, one of those years. And then I saw their second to last ever gig, which was their very last ever gig was in Perth at Soundwave. But I saw them in the Sydney version, and I headbanged so violently that I had to lie down for about an hour during that god awful Marilyn Manson set, the infamous set where he told Sydney to fuck off and sniff coke on stage and punch the bass player, all that kind of shit. Anyway, I slept through that. Well, I tried to sleep through it. My neck was in a very, very bad way. So, Cathedral. If you're going to put them into category, and it's quite difficult to do, you could put them in Doom, you could put them in Stoner Rock, you could put them in death metal, you could put them in progressive metal. There's all sorts of categories that they sit in that don't really make any sense because they are completely different to anyone else that's out there sounding. So formed in 1989 when Lee Dorian, the lead singer of Napalm Death, left Napalm Death because he didn't like the way the music was going. It was going towards more death metal, and he wanted to stay in that hardcore punk scene that the band sat in for so long and were such a big part of. I saw Napalm Death God, it would have been in a festival somewhere. I think it was in East London. And honestly, I was in passing. I don't think I was standing around very long. I was going from one place to another. So not a wonderful experience. I should have stayed and watched now when I think about it. When you're young, you're stupid and you don't think about these things, do you? Anyway, so he formed Cathedral, okay, with Mark Griffin. He's a ex-Carcass roadie. They both had a love of doom and Black Sabbath and classic 70s metal and rock. And they were, really into bands like Candlemass and Pentagram and Trouble, Witchfinder General. And so they got in Gary Jennings, a fresh band, Acid Rain, joined soon after, and there you have a potted history of one of the most interesting bands of the last 20 or so years, maybe even 30 years, I should say. So, we all know, some of us all may not know, some of us may not know. I'm not saying, Tony, this is ridiculous, you shouldn't make that assumption. Some people don't know that Napalm Death were known for the fastest songs ever recorded. They were could be 30 seconds, a minute, extreme vocals. And when I say extreme vocals, I don't think you could ever hear what Lee ever said. Blast beat drumming was invented by them. It's incredibly intense music. So to come from that music and then to sort of fall into a more trad, if you like to call it, music like Cathedral did, then you're going to it's such a weird juxtaposition. That's what I'm trying to think. Okay, it's just so diversely different from one to the other, which I find fascinating. And they've had a really, really interesting record career. They've been on several different labels. They've been on Columbia, Earache. They're all sorts of diverse directions with their music. They first released Forest Equilibrium, which was their first main full-length album, on Earache Records in 1992. After the Soul Sacrifice EP, there was an EP called Soul Sacrifice. And then they moved to Columbian Records. Now, Forest of Equilibrium is, I would call, a trad doom album. You're not going to get anything from that album that's going to be outrageous or too experimental. It's very, if you like your Black Sabbath and you like your Saint Vitus and Pentagram, but you like it dialed down to sort of almost a funereal pace, and that's what you're going to get from Forest of Equilibrium. It's more stoner, I would say, than anything else. It's sludgy. It's you can almost smell the dope while you play it. I remember when I saw Candlemass both times. I do remember vividly there was a lot of the Devil's Lettuce being smoked around the set. I never talked to Lee the first time I saw him, actually. I talked to Narasai Marcolin from Candlemass and someone from Entombed, but that was but I never spoke to Lee, which was, I should have done really. But then, I was only young, and what do I know? I was overawed by everything, really. So went on to Columbian on the Columbia record label. It was an odd label, I think, for them to be on, because they try to push them as the next big thing, make them more, happy, like pop stars. They wanted to make them the new Black Crowes, apparently. I don't know how, if you hear Forest of Equilibrium, you could put that on the agenda. It's bizarre thinking from the label's point of view. They were looking to ride the wave of the new heavy metal because it was going back through it was coming back into vogue, 1990, 91, 92, 93, that time, early 90s. And it was, a little bit of a strange idea. Their first album on that label is Ethereal Mirror, and then they were promptly dropped. I think the label bought the idea, but not the sound, if you know what I mean. Again, that one sort of plays in sort of it's a slightly more traddy, faster album. It does still have those drony doom sort of moments, but it's it's not my favorite album. I'm not going to, because I'm going to talk about their very second to last album is the album that I'm going to talk about in the second half of the show. But just give you a basic idea of doom of this band. Very, very instrumental. Instrumental is the wrong word, Tony, isn't it? Influential. I mean, they have impenetrable pieces of music which, to the listeners, almost inconceivably enjoyable as music, even though it is. And then they have amazing songs like Witchfinder General, Matthew Hopkins' Witchfinder General, which is just insanely catchy. And when they played that in Sydney, that's where my neck went into a nosedive, if you know what I mean. And then from sort of 95, they went back to Earache, which saw them release 4 albums from there. But the first 3 were more groove leadened, bit more sort of, there was some like sampling going on. They were exploring different faster rhythms, moving beyond that sludgy sort of ethereal doom sound. But they went back to the real sort of doom, traditional doom, with their 4th album, End Time. That's ENDTYME. So album Carnival Bazaar, Supernatural Maneuver, and those sort of albums. They really were sort of hinterland, I think, all building up to the one I'm going to talk about. I think they really were. Sorry about that. Actually, it was Supernatural Birth Machine. I can't read my own handwriting. Caravan Beyond Redemption at End Time. And I said End Time was more back in 2001 was more doom related, and the other before then were a bit more almost thrashy, strangely enough. Of those albums, I have to say that I probably enjoy the Carnival Bazaar more than Supernatural Birth Machine. That can be a little bit disjointed as an album, but then all have our own personal taste, don't we? Okay, and then after that, they moved to Spitfire Records, releasing The Seventh Coming, which I actually have several versions of it. I think CD, vinyl, and I think I've got it on cassette. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. I really got hooked into that one. I really got hooked on that album when it came out, because it came out. When did it come out? It came out in 2002. So, my kids were still quite young, and I was really exploring that side of my musical life. I was going much more into the doom. I was a good friend with someone called Steve, and Steve was really into doom in a massive way. So we sort of bonded over that. I haven't spoken to him in years, and then they went on to Nuclear Blast, where they produced their final 3 albums: Garden of Unearthly Delights, The Guessing Game, and The Last Spire. So Garden of Unearthly Delights was 2005. Guessing Game was 2010, and Last Spire was 2013. So sort of sporadic paths, at times between each of their albums. Certainly not prolific band, but but the main person that is stuck throughout the whole of the lineup, of course, is Lee Dorian. He has a an incredible voice. He can go from a dirge. And Gary Jennings, sorry. He can go from a dirge to a operatic almost, to rock and roll. There's a punky edge to his voice. He's got a very unique UK voice, I have to say. And his side projects, which again I really enjoy, Septic Tank and With the Dead. I don't have anything with Septic Tank, unfortunately. I have heard it, but I've got With the Dead's only album, which is a cracking album, actually. A brilliant cover. It's very, 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 very scary. It's quite a piece of music, actually. But anyway, so he's come a long way from his grindcore punk sound to this doom stoner sound, and they influence all sorts of bands. As I said, the local Canberra band here, which I'm a very big fan of, Witch Skull, which I've talked about on the show before, reviewed one of their albums on the show before. You'll find that they are heavily influenced by Cathedral, way back in episode 13. So as we're closing on our 200th episode, I really should get them back on again. They just had a fantastic run of gigs at the Basement, celebrating their 10 years, and it was there because it's been their home, really. And unfortunately, I couldn't get to a single one of them because of personal commitments, which is a real shame. But, you know, their lads know that we will follow them, and we all love them. In fact, I'm wearing a Witch Skull shirt at the moment as we speak. So that's the band, okay, in a potted nutshell. Is that a thing? Anyway, if I've missed names or I've missed quoted dates and things like that, instead of sort of leaving nasty comments in the sections of YouTube, do just reach out and tell me, because, you know, I do my research. I really, really do. But sometimes, as I've told you before in the past, I skip pages in my notebook and I miss things, you know, and yeah. Anyway, that was just there. I was just miles away in my life, thinking myself something else. So looking at my notes, making sure I hadn't missed anything. Right. Okay. So I'll give you the before we move on, I will give you the very final lineup of the band. It was Lee Dorian on vocals, Gary Jennings on guitar, Brian Dixon on drums, and Scott Carson on bass, who has been with them for quite some time. He comes from the band Deaf, which is amazing. The album we're going to talk about, though, is the second to last album, The Guessing Game, and that has a lineup of Lee Dorian on vocals, Gary Jennings on guitar, Brian Dixon on drums, Leo Smee, that's SMEE, on bass, and the cover art was done by Dave Patchett, and I will talk about that when we get there. So, The Guessing Game, truly one of the craziest, wonderful, enthralling, and entertaining pieces of metal I think ever recorded. It is a delicious 84 minutes and 41 seconds of just everything that is wonderful about Cathedral. Because Cathedral, Lee Dorian has come out and said he never wanted his albums ever to sound the same. So each album always had to be a different sound. It had a different move. It felt different. It had different rhythms. It had different vocal stylings. It may derive from one place but end in the other. Nothing. He never stood still. Every single album that they did was all single entity albums, which is a really difficult thing to do, considering that, you know, you want to make money, you need to create a sound. He didn't care. He just wanted to make great art. And he said about The Guessing Game that this was his magnum opus. By now, I can do what I want, he said. And why not? And we'll talk about it when I come back on the other side. Bye for now.
Need a holiday gift that will keep her sparkling all year long? Blue Nile, the original online jeweler, has experts on hand 24/7 who can help you find the perfect piece. Beyond that, Blue Nile makes the gifting experience easier than ever with guaranteed free shipping and returns, as well as a wide assortment of jewelry of the highest quality at the best price. Right now, get 30% off jewelry at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com for 30% off. BlueNile.com.
For 25 years, Brightview Senior Living Associates have been committed to creating a vibrant culture and delivering exceptional services, making Brightview a great place to work and live. If you're looking for a rewarding opportunity to serve your local community and grow, we want you to join our team. Brightview Senior Living is growing and actively seeking vibrant associates to join our community teams, including directors, healthcare, activities, hospitality, and dining. Apply today at careers.brightviewseniorliving.com. Equal employment opportunities. Text BV Jobs to 97211 to apply.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
There are some football feelings you can only get with BetMGM Sportsbook. That's right. Not just the highs, woo! The O's, or the no-no-nos. No! It's the feeling that comes with being taken care of every down of the football season. The feeling that comes with getting MGM Rewards benefits or earning bonus bets. So, whether you're drawing up a same-game parlay in your playbook or betting the over on your favorite team, the BetMGM app is the best place to bet on football. You only get that feeling at BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas, now live across the DMV. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only, DC only, subject to eligibility requirements. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Welcome back to part 2 of Heavy Metal Tones, this episode about the fantastic band Cathedral. Now, I am recording the second half a day or so later, so if there's any incongruities, is the right word, I think, then I do apologise. It's lovely and warm here. I just commitments got in the way, and I don't mean the 80s pop band with a brass section. No, I meant just life. So I've got a nice pint of cleansing British ale here in this nice hot Australian sun. I've just put up the Christmas lights outside the house whilst listening to some very heavy metal. So it's fantastic. Lovely juxtaposition there. Some Swedish satanic stuff. Anyway, so Cathedral, as we were talking about before, this particular album is the culmination of everything that that Lee and the guys were trying to do. As I said before in the first half, he really just enjoyed experimenting. And when he got to this one, the experimentation is up to like 11. You know, it's got jazz vibes, it's got prog pieces in, it's got like, doom, rock and roll, bit of punk. Everything is in this album. I mean, they even said he said, "Oh, have I gone too proggy?" And then he said, "No, I haven't. I thought I had, but when I listened back to it, no." And I absolutely agree with him. There's a passage of music in this particular album that when I listen to it, I'm straight in to early Yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Van der Graaf Generator, all that stuff. You know, it's not Genesis-y because that's a little bit too fluid on the keyboards, but it's more sort of pastoral. It's beautiful. Anyway, we'll get to that particular piece of music. It's also, he also mentions horror movie references. There's got giallo references, as I mentioned week before last on the episode, if you remember, 193, I think that was. when I was talking about the Halloween episode, about Italian directors, the giallo, which is yellow. It means yellow. So yeah, it's something that it's something for everyone. It's one of those albums, and he does say that Lee Dorian, that is, says that this is the perfect starting point for anyone into the band, and that's one of the reasons I chose it as well. Because if you go straight to the first album, you will get unless you're really into that funereal doom kind of dirge, you might just get put off it. Whereas God, I think computer binged. You'll find that this one is a little more accessible to everyone. That's not saying it's like a pop album, by no means, but as I said, it has a bit of everything for everyone. And it's an 84-minute album, and space is limited in this show, so I'm not going to go through every track on the album and break it down. And I'd like to, but time frames are as such because this is a long album. So we'll pick out some individual pieces, and we'll go from there. Okay. Let's see what we're going to start with. Just to reiterate, it's the 2010 album, The Guessing Game, the second to last album. Sorry, I didn't repeat that. I'm sure I said it the first half anyway, but in case, as I said, a bit disjointed today, I apologise. Okay, it's on Nuclear Blast Records. It was released on the 26th of March 2010, and it was recorded between 2009 and 2010. 84 minutes and 41 seconds. And was produced by Warren Ricker. Okay. The track listing we have on it here is we have The Immaculate Misconception, that was actually produced or recorded, written by Leo Smee. Funeral of Dreams, Painting in the Dark, Death of an Anarchist, The Guessing Game, Edwig's Eyes, or could be Edwig's Eyes, but Edwig's Eyes, Cats, Incense, Candles and Wine. That's the disc one, okay? And they're all roughly around 6 to 7 minutes long. There's a couple of short ones, like The Guessing Game is 3 minutes 8, and Immaculate Misconception is 2 minutes 24. And out of that lot, you start off with Immaculate Misconception, which is this fantastic instrumental piece of music that when you put it on, you think, am I listening to a doom band? It starts with this really heavy 70s style. I think it's a Moog, but it could be many of those sort of keyboard piece instruments from the 70s. I think it's a Mellotron, actually, if I now think about it. And it just sort of stab, don't. It's a real introduction to this such brilliant band. It just pulls you in musically. You feel drawn in. If any of you Ghost fans out there, will probably, if you listen to this piece of music, will say, yeah, it sounds like Ghost. Well, it does, because I think it's got a lot of Blue Oyster Cult leanings. I think that probably Ghost even not copied, but were influenced by this album. I couldn't see why they wouldn't be. It's just a fantastic piece. It's only 2 minutes long, but I actually would like an extended version, to be honest. And it draws you, and right at the end, music fades out, and you just hear a newborn baby crying. Hence, Immaculate Misconception. I don't know what they were smoking. But more of it, please, because it's just a fantastic way to start an album. And then we look at the next album off the rank. There is hang on, let me just get that 1 second to get my notes. Funeral of Dreams. So the first disc on this, because I've only got it on CD, I think. The first disc on this album is quite light. It's not like, if you do go back and have listened to the Cathedral albums in order, you will find that after about halfway through some of their albums, you sort of just want to go and listen to some Iron Maiden or something, you know, lighter, because it just sort of, it does fill you with this heavy sense on your shoulders, this dirginess, which is, you know, is what they're trying to do. But this album has a little bit more lift, all right? It starts with the really traditional kind of Cathedral sound, and you'll know that when you hear a few of the albums, you'll know the sound. And then Lee Dorian's vocal comes in almost like a choral. It's like a choral voice. It's obviously double track because you can hear behind the vocal, you can hear people doing harmonies. He's singing it on, and it's quite a driving song because it's all driven by the drums. There's a lot of drum going on here, and it's clean. It's a really beautiful production for an early 2000, mid 2000s album, because it doesn't feel digitalized. You know what I mean? It's quite traditional sounding in its mix. But what's amazing about this song, guys, is that it then becomes a heavy, dirgy doom song, and then in a blink of an eye, Lee is singing a jazz style lyric. Like the way he's singing it is like a piece of interesting modern jazz. It's that staccato. It's like I honestly, this is right in my wheelhouse, this kind of thing, because I like my music, as you know. I like it balls to the wall. I like it hard and heavy. I like it straightforward and simple, right? Like all music as it comes, but complicated, interesting music that flows within a 6 minute song. 7 minutes 18 song. That changes direction, that keeps you on your toes. There's something special. And this is one of my favourite tracks on the album, Funeral of Dreams. Just something special, really, really. And the music behind it, when he's doing his jazz part, is really like you can imagine being in. If any of those are of a certain vintage, but certain, like, remember the Fast show, there was a character in there, it was a jazz club, and he'd go, nice, you know. And it just reminds me of that. It reminds me of some dark room with some good whiskey, a big cigar, and some interesting sort of atonal jazz going on in the background. You're not quite sure if you like it or not, but it's interesting enough to keep you interested. And I find this song, it's probably my favourite track on the album, as you probably know. It is superb. Right. Moving on. This one is more traditional, Painting in the Dark. It opens with, I don't know who it is, I'd love to find out who does it, but she says, if this is reality, then I'm off to paint in the dark. Old lady's voice, I don't know who it is. But it's straight in, simple metal, right? It's not, there is a flashy guitar solo towards the end, which is not something I genuinely equate with Cathedral. Excuse me, can I have some more beer? But as I said, it's experimental, and he's doing what he wants to do, knowing that it's coming to the end of his career with the band. I think he just wanted to do something for himself and for the band, really, not just him. That would be rude just for him to do it on his own, when he's not just him, there's other members of the band as well, but he sort of formed it. So yeah, Painting in the Dark, once you come off that strangeness of the previous song, you come into a more traditional track, and but I do love the way it goes from strange into a little audio clip and then straight into rock and roll, like heavy metal. I would call it doom light, if anything. All right, Sabbathy. In fact, it's very Sabbathy, but a little lighter than sort of the heavier tones of Sabbath. But yeah, absolutely, this is the best side of the album for me, anyway. Again, this is delicious diversity of a track. Opens with fantastic, very well recorded, beautiful acoustic guitar. Then it moves into a really galloping, Maiden-esque, Nawabum sounding piece of metal, and then it goes into a really heavy ending, and the vocals. I mean, I want to do the lyrics, but I want to talk about the music, because we're going to talk about the lyrics. It's too much to get it in the episode if I was going to do the lyrics as well. You just listen to the album yourself, and you'll hear the lyrics. But it's fantastic. Sometimes, particularly with Cathedral, I'm more just drawn to the music. But Lee's voice is so underrated. I know it's not for everyone, right? There are people where they're going to go, I can't do it. Because he's not a classically trained singer. He comes from a hardcore punk, grindcore sound, where he butchered his voice for years. But he just sings beautifully on this album. Just absolutely fantastic. Death of an Anarchist. And it's quite wordy, but it is just, I love it. It's 3 stages. It grows, it starts, it grows, it gets heavy, it gets heavier, and then it fades. And I just think and Lee's vocal just changes, stylings in and out of the song. Nothing on this album will ever keep you, you'll never be bored, because every time you listen to it, well, that will teach me to drink beer when I'm recording a bit gassy. You're always going to hear something different. I've listened to this album since its release, and I genuinely find it enthralling, because I'll go and forget about it for a year or two, a couple of years, and go back to it and go, why wasn't I listening to this more? Particularly songs like Death of an Anarchist, really. And here we come to the piece of music on the album that makes I smile without even, before it's even played. Listeners, I really, really do. It's called The Guessing Game. It's the title track. It is beautifully prog in such... All you prog heads out there, and there are a few of you out there, I know there are. When you get to this track, listen to it, and don't tell me you don't think this didn't come off of Snow Goose, right, by Camel, or Close to the Edge by Yes. It feels like a leftover piece of that. It's got whimsy, it's got fluidity, floweriness. It has the organ going through it. It's an instrumental piece, and the organ going through it is beautiful. I mean, I do think it's a what's it? What did I say it was before? Not a Moog. Anyway, what I said before, right? A Mellotron. I think it's a Mellotron, to be honest with you. It could be a Roland, but it sounds like a Mellotron to me. And it's not a Leslie, I don't think, because it doesn't have that vibration that you get with a Leslie. But it's just gorgeous. It's only 3 odd minutes long, but it breaks the album up. It's just a thing of beauty. Next we fall into this amazing track called Edwig's Eyes. It's ED. I'm going to have to spell it out for you because I can't pronounce it. I'm mispronouncing it. EDWIGE. Eyes. Apostrophe S eyes. Basically, it's the band's homage to the actress from the late 60s, early 70s that became a big sex symbol in Italy. For her roles in a lot of his giallo movies, and he does actually mention giallo movies here. He also mentions a lyric. He mentions Blood and Black Lace, which is not one of her movies, but it is a giallo movie. She did 5 Dolls for an August Moon, The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, The School Teacher, All the Colours of the Dark, and here is one of my favourite titles. Your Vice is a locked room and only I have the key. What a fantastic name for a movie. She's well known for having these very piercing, beautiful eyes, and a particular way that she did her makeup for those eyes. It was that sort of time when there was lots of blood and skin on the screens. She's still acting, apparently, I believe. She's still alive, which is amazing. And she's just, very big in that sort of niche of Italian giallo movies, really, truly. But I love the fact that the band have paid tribute to her. The style of movie is paid tribute to really well. Unlike Fulci, who I mentioned a few weeks ago, which is really heavy, this is much more easy listening. And I like the way that they sort of mention all the arcane stuff that goes around the giallo movies of the late 60s and early 70s in Italy. The music itself is dark, dense, and typical Cathedral. It's quite a unique song on the album, that it feels quite monotonal in one. That means it goes in one. I think it sounds to me like it's in one moving direction or sound, but it doesn't really. It actually is very dynamic, but it just has that kind of eeriness that you get and craziness that you get from giallo movies of that period. There are some absolute movies that you watch and you go, I don't understand what happened. Like Black Cat and was it Damaged Brain? Black Cat for a Damaged Brain? One of those sort of crazy. I'm misquoting, so do apologise, but you know what I mean. There's some really nuts movies out there. And Four Flies on Grey Velvet is one of them. I never understood. It's a Dario Argento movie. Never understood what was going on with that one. Bird with the Crystal Plumage, probably the first real major international success of a giallo movie made by Dario Argento. It was one of his first movies, and that really is a beautiful thing of it's beautiful cinematography, actually. So don't get put off by the crazy story, because sometimes the story you're never going to get, and if you are going to get it, you're going to get in the last reel when it's suddenly to change threw in, like Agatha Christie just chucked in a character that you weren't expecting. Anyway, that is that song. I love the fact that they are pointing in a direction of a forgotten actress in some strange forgotten Italian movies, but they, like Lee and I, have very similar tastes, it seems. And what do we have next? What next can come from this album, I say? What more? What more? This amazing track, Cats, Incense, Candles and Wine. So it starts off with Lee doing a sort of a cappella-y kind of thing with just a drum behind it, not much else. Him just singing about incense, candles, wine and sacrifice. And then it becomes quite moogy. There's a bit of keyboard in there. The drums start coming in. It's quite poppy. I actually felt myself listening to the first maybe 30, 40 seconds to a minute of this. You find yourself bobbing around. God, this is really catchy. And then it goes straight into heavy, straight into the thrashy kind of sound, the more metal sound. And then a little bit of doom. And then really thunderous and cacophonous ending. And it's just so enjoyable. It doesn't stay in one direction. It's not just like here we go, one rhythmic sound, bridge, chorus, verse, chorus. It's primal. It's artistic. It's so proggy. But I know you're going to say, oh, you was going about prog, but this is the perfect blend. People talk about prog metal to me a lot, and I do like those bands, but they become very technical. Now, I know that prog is technical music as such, but for me, no. I think prog is anything progressively outside the norms of what you, as your band, would normally play, not necessarily the rock and roll sound, right? So this is progressive for them because they're doing things so different to what they normally would do. I can imagine the fun they would have had in the studio recording this. Really, I just can, Anyway, next track on, another fabulous instrumental. Throwing at me, baby. This one's called One Dimensional People. Starts off with a fantastic, clattery, jazzy, Sabbathy, 70s sounding drum solo. It's just clattering around, doing its bit. And then just you think, where's this going? And then you get this really fabulous, cleanish sounding 70s style guitar solo, where it's not a million notes up and down the neck. Look, I can play E all up and down here. I can do 55 million notes into the. It's not that. It's the kind of solo that Iommi would play, honestly, and it has that real Sabbath-esque sort of nod to it, where he goes from like a solo that sounds like it's recorded by someone like Who am I thinking of? Something like Eric Clapton or Steve Hackett or any of those sort of clean kind of sound guitars to a really dirty, dirty, filthy, fabulous wah, that just really gets your blood pumping, and that takes it out. It takes it out then with the guitar and the wah and the drums and the synth, the mellotron or whatever it is underneath it. Just, yeah, I do respect bands that can throw in a couple of instrumentals, because it's letting the band show its legs, like prove its legs. I mean, or whatever the saying is, prove itself. Because a lot of the time, particularly myself, as a lover of music, a lover of lyrics, I will often override what I'm listening to hear what they're saying, and then to learn what they're saying, and then go and listen to the music, because I'm a man of words. But that sometimes gets a bit tiring. So it's nice to sit back and let the band just, as it stretch their legs, is what I meant to say. Show their legs. I don't know where that came from, Tony. Stretch their legs. Just sort of open up the old sluice gates and let their creative selves fly. And it does in such a fantastic way. On one-dimensional people. It's not my favorite instrumental piece on the album. No, the guessing game is my favorite, but this is still, there's 3 so far, right? And this is still a fantastic piece. Okay, now we have the Casket Chasers. The Casket Chasers is straight into, right in back to, like, classic Cathedral. There's a sound they make. I don't know if I can really describe it, but there's a sound of the guitar where it's a little hammer on. So it's a chord, then a hammer on, then a chord. So it's it's, I'm not doing it justice, but that's their sound that they have. If you listen to Witchfinder General, Matthew Hopkins' Witchfinder General, you'll hear that guitar refrain. It's used a fair bit. It is right in that Cathedral sound. The vocals are mixed back. It's a bit dirgier, a bit thicker, so it's got that sort of mild doom, but not too much doom-esque to it. It's got a real punk clatter to it, a real sort of no-nonsense, look at me, I'm playing this fucking music for you, shut up kind of feel to it, right? It's the kind of track that when they played it live, you would stop and just watch. You just get drawn into what they're doing. And Casket Chasers is there. It's there, right? It's one for the fans, as I said before. So, and I'm sure, I'm absolutely sure out there, people, that there are people who listen to this album who only like really like hardcore Cathedral fans or Doom fans that will skip past tracks like The Guessing Game and One Dimensional People, which is a real shame, because let your mind wander, yeah? Let it free, because sometimes the most beautiful things happen, yeah? It is an album that I think probably does help if you're toking the devil's lettuce. I'm not saying you should, I'm not advocating that you should, but I think it's one of those albums like Dark Side of the Moon, where Dave Gilmour, that's the guitarist I was trying to go over, Eric Clapton. Ew. Dave Gilmour, Stephen Hackett. Yeah, like Dark Side of the Moon. Anyway, a nice classic track breaking up all the instrumental and progressive stuff. You know what I mean? Right. This next one is a bit of a tricky one. Okay. Now, I'm gonna try and pronounce the name of this song. Basically, in the late 60s to early 70s, there was a horror film franchise by a director called Armando de Osorio called The Blind Dead. And what it was basically these Templar Knights come back to wreak havoc on their enemies. They're killed, entombed, and things like that. And this particular one, now bear with me, I'm going to try and find the because I could barely read. So the one that the one that they've written a song about is called the Ghost Galleon, okay, or the Curse Ship, or the Ghost Ship of the Blind Dead. That's the name. I'm not going to attempt the Spanish pronunciation. It is on the album. I'm not going to tend to. It's from 1974. It's the third in the Blind Dead series. I've never seen it. I've seen the first two, like Night of the Sorcerers, Return of the Blind Dead, Tomb of the Blind Dead, but I've not seen that one. I don't think, anyway. They're not overtly graphic. They're quite bloody. They're a lot of fun, actually. They're actually quite eerie. Jess Franco of Oasis of the Zombies and Zombie Lake, he produced quite a few of them. It had Paul Naschy in, who is a Spanish. He's like the Christopher Lee of Spain. Like, if you haven't seen the Paul Naschy movie, Naschy, if you haven't seen one of his movies, you really should make an effort to. They're all on YouTube. They're fun. They're crazy. They're low budget. Just madness. But anyway, it's back to the song. So it's what you imagine this movie to be like. The soundtrack of it is quite shambling. It's quite doomy. It's quite dusty. It's quite stretched out in its phrasing. It's pretty perfect for the soundtrack for that movie. If I've seen it, I'm sure I have, listeners. I absolutely sure I have. But can I remember? No. I have seen the other two though. And so, like, I just love the way they bring that horror movie aspect back in. So there's that now creepiness, that doomy Cathedral 70s, a time when movies were fun, a time when you could pay a couple of pence, a couple of dollars, a couple of whatever it is, and go in and sit down and watch, an hour and a half of pure low budget madness. And you wouldn't walk out going, well, it's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. You'd have walked out with a smile on your face and you'd be laughing. We are now so film literate as audiences, same with music. We're so literate in these fields that we see something like that and we instantly think it's crap. It has no worth or warrant or reason to be made. But go back 30 years, 40 years, and go and watch that movie. And the people who went into that cinema to pay got their popcorn, their hot dog, and their drink away from reality, a double bill of terrible 70s horror movies, they would have just loved it. Okay, so this sort of brings that feel to me. It feels like I've picked up the soundtrack to the album and I've put it on. It is a really good track, a little long if anything, but it is a really good track. It has a sort of seesawing rhythm, like they're rowing. It has a feel of being at the ocean, becalmed on a blackened sea, trying to get away. It has that feel, and I quite enjoy that, to be honest. And actually, I've got a smile on my face now just thinking about it. And I might even, when I finish recording, take my beer downstairs and bung on a nice 70s horror movie, an Italian one, and just get taken away on a cloud of whimsy and those people, and be taken along on a story by those people trying to make something out of nothing. And I find that endearing. The next one is The Running Man. Now, I don't know. I tried looking into this. I don't know if it's based on the Stephen King short story and the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Time to Split. I don't know. It is very angry. Of all the tracks on this album, this one's the one that has the most venom in its lyrical deliverance. It's quite angry. It's got the Mellotron still going in the background. It's got a thumping, heavy bass and drum, and the guitar is just it's there doing its bit, but it's not overtaking. Because the band even said themselves they weren't that talented. They don't think. I think that's a load of bullshit. But anyway, to play 90 million notes a second, it doesn't make you talented. It just means you've practiced a fuckload. And where's your soul? Where's the soul? Anyway. That aside, I've talked about that before. It's quite a short song, It's only no, it's not 8 minutes. Sorry, I apologise. But it's like all the other. It just felt short for me when I listened to it. It's like all the others on the album. It's on a journey. It takes you on a journey. It moves in one musical style to the next, to the other. Vocally, it sounds a bit mixed back. It is really violent in its like feel. It's really angry, and I think that may come across in the story. I've never read The Running Man. I've only ever seen the movie with Schwarzenegger, as I said, and that was a long time ago, and I can't remember. I know the basic concept, and because I don't have the lyric sheet in front of me, I'm struggling to quite work out. I think it is, and if it isn't, well, please do tell me in the comments. I'd like to know. Just be constructive, not rude, please. So yeah, if you don't mind going from dirgy, funeral dirgy sound in Ghost Ship to angry, almost hardcore punky sounding in energy, that is, The Running Man, it's a really interesting change mix from one to the other, right? This one actually is a song that I try to not be listening to too closely. Actually does give me the willies slightly. It's called Requiem for the Voiceless, and it opens up with a lady talking about to a cow and seeing how the cow can count, and the cow sounds like it's a recorded cow but played backwards, or it could be one of the band members making a cow sound and playing backwards, right? And it's very dark. This song to me is about meat eating, because I think Lee Dorian is vegan. I could be wrong. And to me, Requiem for the Voiceless is the he's singing it from the point of the cow, like, what are you doing? Why? What's happening? You know, you think of, you know, it's quite confronting as a piece of music. As a vegetarian of almost 40 years, this one does hit home to me. If you eat meat, I'm not judging anyone. No, you eat meat, do what you want, baby. No stress, yeah. Cognitive dissonance is a fantastic thing, is it not? But it just has that crass. It could be on a Crass album. It could be on any of those the hardcore punk stuff from the early 80s, which where Lee comes from, in mid 80s. You know, that sort of animal liberation-y kind of feel. But it's almost Pink Floyd-y, because it like Animal Farm, like it just comes from that, you know, from that where you have that feel. It's not Animal Farm, it's Animals. Yeah, it has that feel where it's like, you know, that he's telling us something in the lyric, and he's not telling you off or making you feel small for sitting there in front of your steak, because that's absolutely fine for anyone to do what they want to do. What he's trying to do is just bringing it, I think, from the point of the animal, and it is quite confronting coming to the end of the album. After all the other amazing pieces of music we've had, it is quite dirgy. It is very doomy. It is at a pace. Because of its pace, it hangs around a bit, and the message gets across a little bit more succinctly, if you know what I mean. Then we end the album on quite an upbeat sounding piece of music, but not in its lyrical content. This is Journey into Jade, and I think it's about, I interpret it as about the end of the Cold War, because it talks about 1990, and that's when I believe the Berlin Wall fell. Am I correct in that time? Around that period? I'm sure it's around that period. Anyway, and he talks about where we come, where we're going, 20 years of since the fall of fear, and all this sort of stuff. So I think it's about the fall of communism in general. That's why it's Journey into Jade, to Chinese communism, Russian communism, although the Chinese communism, of course, is still abound, but Russian communism, the Berlin Wall, I think that's what it is about. And it, you know, for a heavy subject matter, it's quite a whimsical piece of music, to be honest. it's interesting. Okay, it's interesting because this. Hold it and listen. I hope you've listened this way to the album, because if you don't know it, listen to about this last track. It might confuse you. So the album actually finishes at 4 minutes. The song finishes at 4 minutes and 2, and it's actually a 6 minute and 34-minute song, 34-second song. So it plays silence for almost, I think it's 4 minutes, and then just when you think, oh, it's over, 30 seconds before the end of that, you get some studio chat from Lee Dorian. There's some music over the back. There's some I'm not quite sure what he's talking about, but please, listeners, if you do know, let me see if hang on. I'm gonna pause it. I'm gonna see if I can find out what he's saying. Okay, this is what apparently. Okay, so it says the journey into Jade ends at 6 minutes 32 and continues with silence until 9:32. At this point begins an untitled hidden track. There was a voice recording of Cathedral artist Dave Patchett, so it's not Lee Dorian, it's the artist of the album cover, describing the theme of the artwork of the guessing game. At one point during the audio section, Lee Dorian stifles a laugh in response to one of Dave's options about religion. There was music being played in the background. There you go. And that moves aptly on for me to the album cover. So David Patchett is a well-known illustrator, has done a lot of Cathedral's covers, and when you look at this album cover, if you were to see it sitting in a rack of heavy metal albums, you'd go, nah, that looks like a transcendental Eastern European kind of thing, right? You think it doesn't look metally. It looks like it's digitally produced, could be airbrushed. It looks like a big baby Buddhist kind of child sitting in the Garden of Eden sort of thing, with paradise and birds and plants and animals. It's really lovely. Completely sums up the title track for me visually in the title of the album. It really, the guessing game, it really, really sums it up. But it doesn't sum the rest of the album up, because it's an enigma. It is one of the most interesting modern recordings in my collection. I know I say a lot. I do apologize. It gets to the end of the recording when I've been told I say too much. It's because I don't script it. You know that. It's just how it.
If you want to see more companies make things in America, consider buying more things from companies who are already doing that very thing. Companies like American Giant. These guys have been making T-shirts, sweatshirts, flannels, and blue jeans in America for the last 14 years, with cotton grown right here in the USA. That means good jobs for lots of hardworking Americans in factory towns all over the country. Check out their stuff in stores everywhere, or pick up something awesome at American-Giant.com.
At Leidos, a brilliant mind is smart, but a brilliant team is smarter. A ship that finds enemy subs is smart, but an autonomous fleet, that's smarter. Defending against cyber attacks? Smart. Stopping attacks before they start? Smarter. And using AI tools is smart. But integrating trusted mission AI into your technology is smarter. We're not just making technology solutions in national security and health. We're making smart smarter. Leidos.
There are some football feelings you can only get with BetMGM Sportsbook. That's right. Not just the highs, the O's, or the no-no-nos.
No!
It's the feeling that comes with being taken care of every down of the football season. The feeling that comes with getting MGM Rewards benefits or earning bonus bets. So, whether you're drawing up a same-game parlay in your playbook or betting the over on your favorite team, the BetMGM app is the best place to bet on football. You only get that feeling at BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas, now live across the DMV. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only, DC only, subject to eligibility requirements. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Goes. Anyway, it's a beautiful cover. You just wouldn't think it as... It's not traditionally doomy. It's not traditionally heavy metal, but it is, when you look at the catalogue of Cathedral, very cathedraly. Very cathedraly. I'm sure they were sitting around going, yeah, that looks good, man. Yeah. I'm sure that's what they were doing. on the old devil's lettuce, or the, as my nan would call it, the cannibal's raisins. That's enough for me this week. I hope you do enjoy the album. I ummed on the end just to prove a point. If you enjoy the album, please let me know. If you haven't heard the album before and you've got some opinions on it, find it. Let me know. If you haven't and you listen to it, let me know how you feel about it, because it is a modern masterpiece. It doesn't have. I can't even categorize it. It can't be called doom. It can't be called prog. It's just a really interesting melange of modern styles and of styles that they enjoy playing that sort of shouldn't go together but go together, and just for 84 minutes and 41 seconds just keep you enthralled. Anyway, enough for me. Please do like and subscribe. If you're on Spotify, swipe up and give me a star rating. Please 5 stars if you can, because the more star ratings, the more people see me. And you always can come to my Patreon page and sign up and help me keep the lights on and the decks turning and the tape spinning. Yeah. All right. So, anyway, keep safe. Chat to you next week. Bye for now.